There's already a lot of finger pointing going on in cable news.
Yes.
Who's to blame? What went wrong? And of course, Saagar.
Yes.
The Democrats can never fail. They can only be failed,
yes.
right? And so Joy Reid over on MSNBC had an interesting explanation of what exactly has gone wrong in this election cycle. Take a listen.
The people I ever hear use the word inflation are journalists and economists, right? So that is not part of the normal lexicon of the way people talk. So it's interesting that Republicans are doing something they don't normally do, right? Which is not use the common tongue, right? Not use just common English to sort of do on their campaigns like they're doing with crime. But what they've done is they've taught people the word inflation, right? Yeah. Most people who would have never used that word ever in their lives are using it now because they've been taught it, including on TV, including in newspapers. They've been taught this word, and they sort of wrap this word around whatever it is that they really want to vote.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Smart, yes. People
had no idea what inflation was before the Republicans.
So the boomers who lived through the 1970s have never heard the name inflation. The Gen Xers who also were in the 1970s never heard their parents use the word inflation. I wasn't even born in a time of high inflation, and I know what the inflation is. So I think people know what the hell is going on. Well, it's just, I see this stuff all the time.
Yes.
Stacey Abrams says that she might lose because of misinformation amongst black men. That's it? Misinformation? Maybe you suck. I mean, it's just like, why is it always the fault of the voters for misusing or mislearning the term inflation? It's a technical term. You don't have to like it. You can contest it if you would like.
Yeah. Well, this fits with, there's been a whole narrative in, on the Twitters and in the ecosystem, the media ecosystem of like, the media is being too hard on Democrats and the economy is actually great. And this is like, this is hurting Democrats, that you're portraying the economic situation is much worse than it actually is. And look, I don't deny the economy. It's kind of a weird situation because you do have continued low unemployment. But I think it is the height of condescension and contempt to think that people don't know what's going on in their own lives. And when they tell you they're struggling, like, they mean it. It's not because Republicans had a talking point or the media or whatever. They are able to experience that for themselves. And so, I guess this is, I certainly have been making the case. Bernie Sanders has been making the case. There are a few voices out there that are saying like, hey, maybe y'all should have talked about the economy. This is a way to acknowledge that the economic concerns ended up being a big issue, but also to never cast any blame with the Democrats for failing to offer any affirmative, any explanation for why this was happening, any affirmative program that would help people. Instead, it's like, oh, just the Republican media machine taught people the word inflation, and that's why we're losing.
No, they didn't. That's, again, no, it's not. Or maybe people are like, hey, I love the idea of somebody being like, my groceries are more expensive. What's the name for that? And somebody's like, inflation. Like, no, that's a Republican term. It's like, no, it's just more expensive. It is a technical increase in price relative to time. That's it. That's all we have to consider it as. Whether it matters and what's the cause, listen, there's a real debate around that one. That's fun, which we spend a lot of time talking about here on the show. But to deny that it's happening, just totally ridiculous. I mean, again, the same thing. Oh, misinformation is the reason why black men are, moving to Republicans and Latino men actually in historic degree. I think one of the major, if I have to predict one of our major segments we're going to do on our show, is going to be black and Latino men moving in historic degrees to Republicans. There's been a real gender polarization over the last couple of months. And
probably
actually
fueled
years,
by Roe in part.
Which is fascinating. Yeah, you're right. Possible. I don't know, though, because it predates it. Maybe it accelerated. We'll see.
I think the potential, it was already
it was
widening.
trending.
But I do think that Roe helped to accelerate it. But the problem for Democrats isn't that people learned what inflation was. It's that the economic reality is not good, and Democrats haven't done a good job explaining what they would do differently. Cable news is ripping us apart, dividing the country, making it impossible to function as a society, and making it impossible to know just what is true and what is false. But the good news is they are failing, and they know it.
That is why we're building something new, a new mainstream, a healthier one, something more trustworthy, something that we are going to need in one of the most pivotal times in American history. We are building up here for the midterms, for the upcoming presidential election, but we need your help. So if you can help us out by becoming a premium member today at breakingpoints.com, we're trying to change America for the better and the entire world.
So what are you waiting for, guys? Go to breakingpoints.com and sign up and help us build a new mainstream.